Very pleased right now to be joined inside the Indiana Union Construction Industry radio studio with the general manager of the Indianapolis Colts. Chris Ballard is with us. With J.J. Stankevitz, I'm Matt Taylor. Chris, first of all, really appreciate your time, and we're just days away from the 2023 NFL Draft, and I know the work is not completely done until you make the picks coming up next weekend, but are you excited that the draft is almost here and you can finally enjoy all those hours and all the work that you've put into this point? It's almost here.
Yeah, no, and the work that, everybody in the building's put in. It all comes to fruition on draft day. But, yeah, we're excited. A lot of work put in, a lot of great work by our scouts and staff, coaching staff, and everybody in our training and strength and football ops. Everybody's involved, and it's a fun process. And, draft day is kind of the celebration of their work. That's kind of how I looked at it.
So we're through the combine, we're through pro days, we're through 30 visits. You said the cement isn't going to dry until draft day, but you kind of talked about it a little in your press conference, but the pre-draft noise of, like, the Colts like this guy, we're hearing the Colts like that guy. How do you tune that out? How do you have other people in the building tune that out if you need to kind of set that tone?
Well, look, there's always a new rumor that comes up every day. But I have a great deal of trust internally of our people. They kind of know. They're open. We're very open with information. And for a reason. That's how you grow. And I think that's how everybody can grow. The more information you're able to see and see how decisions are being made, is how you grow. But with that comes great responsibility. And with that responsibility is nothing gets out. So I feel I'm pretty confident that, our information is staying in-house, especially with some of the stuff I hear. I know it's staying in-house. So you shift through it. I don't pay attention to a lot. I don't read a lot this time of year. There's some things I do because I know where there's credible sources. But at the end of the day, I try to tune as much out as I can and make as clear and unbiased a decision through all the information we've gathered as we can.
Chris Ballard is with us, and this is your 7th draft with the Colts. This will be the highest pick that you make if you stay at 4. In your time following the draft and being in the draft and obviously having a huge part of it, what have you learned about the top end of the draft historically over time that can help you make the best decision possible in this instance for the Colts?
Every one of them's different. This year's much different than when we took Quentin at 6, in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Every year's different. And I think you got a chance to get a real high-end talent. Anytime you're in the top 10, you've got a chance to get a high-end talent that can really impact the organization. And you want to take the one that can play and be a good player for you, no matter the position.
You've been a scout. You've been in these conversations for decades. You've evaluated all the quarterbacks in this draft class. Have you learned things over your time about what matters when it comes to quarterback evaluation and what maybe doesn't matter when you're taking this mountain of information and trying to sift through it?
Yeah, well, I think whoever you take, whoever's your quarterback, deals a lot with how you're going to use him and playing to his strengths to make him successful. There's different types of flavors, at quarterback, and everybody's got an opinion on them. But at the end of the day, it's the guy you think you can win with and who your coaching staff thinks they can build an offense around.
How much time and energy goes into finding out the character of these guys, finding out who they are as people, their mental makeup, how good of a leader they would be? How much time and energy goes into that? How much does that matter when you put the whole puzzle together on these players?
Well, I think it matters with every player you bring in the building, because you're telling your locker room who you are with every player you draft. We've not been perfect by any stretch, but our scouts do a tremendous job digging, using their sources, visiting with these players, using their experiences to know who we're getting. And you always tell them, like, we're not going to get it in the hole. That's impossible because you haven't lived with somebody. Until you live with somebody, you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But let's get it close to the hole. All right, let's get to the 85, 90 percentile range if we can to know who he's going to be when he walks in the building, and that's with any position and how he fits, not only as a player, but also how's he fit in the locker room. How's the locker room going to handle, and how's he going to fit in, with his teammates? That's important.
I think a lot of people don't understand the work that scouts have to put in during the fall to get all this information and compile it all. I think with the next pick, part one of it this year did a really good job of showing kind of the latter part of the process where, you're on the road with Mike Lacey, and he's on the road for 2 weeks, right now. But you having done it, been in that position before as a scout, how much of it is almost like detective work that you have to do, and how much of it is relationship building, and just how intensive is that process?
They're the unsung heroes of an organization, because it's not as much the grade. I even felt this as a scout. Not as much about the grade you put on the player, but being able to identify the player and get him on everybody's radar. Where we're going to end up taking him. We'll sort that out over time. But just being able that takes a skill. That takes talent. It takes talent to scout talent. I know everybody thinks it's just an easy thing, but it takes talent to scout talent. And then it takes even more talent. This is what the art comes in with being able to, really understand who he is by people you visit with. And you can't visit with enough. Like, you can't go visit with one person and take that as the gospel.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got to have enough emotional intelligence to be able to kind of fit in what everybody's telling you to form a story of who the player is and what he stands for. And every player has a story. Like, everyone, they all have a story. And our scout's job is to tell us the story. Tell us who he is. We probably spend as much time talking about the characters we do who he is as a player, because it's so important. And it's hard. It's very difficult. And they don't have all the information in the fall. That's what even makes it harder. Because we get more information when you get the medical, when you get the interviews, you go through the All-Star games. Like, I would tell you 70% of the information they have, but there's another 30% they don't have. Sure, the tape is critical, and that's primarily what you're going off, but there's a lot more that goes into it. That's deeper that they delve into. So they're the eyes and ears.
Mm-hmm.
And just because you don't draft a player doesn't mean that player won't eventually end up on your team. So they've got to scout each and every player with an unbiased opinion of what he can be, for the Indianapolis Colts.
That's General Manager Chris Ballard with us for your Indianapolis Colts. For you, Chris, what are the deeper parts of this draft? What position groups have a good talent pool about them?
I think it's a really good defensive edge people, really good defensive end draft. I think there's some good depth on the O-line, and the same with corner. And it's probably as good a tight end draft that I've seen in a long time now. There's some really good football players at the tight end position.
When you look at the maybe more immediate needs on this team versus the pure talent of these guys, while also considering what the needs of this team might be in a year, how does that all balance when you're putting together your draft board?
Yeah, it's all part of the puzzle because you're projecting out of what our current needs are now, plus what it's going to be a year from now. But the one thing you don't ever want to do is take a need over a player that you think is going to be really good for you. And it might not be a necessity at the time you took him, but he's going to really make a difference on game day. Like, it's hard to find red and blue players that flip the field on game day, and you never pass one up when you have a chance to take him. And or a guy with red or blue traits, even like they don't even have to be in the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
Second, third, fourth round, there's times when we really don't need this guy, but he's so good, we're not going to pass on him. I mean, that's all part of it.
Chris, I know you got to run. You're incredibly busy, so we really appreciate the time. Lastly, for you, what's it been like being you for the last 4 months? I mean, are you going to the grocery store, getting stopped at the butcher line, asking who the Colts are drafting? I mean, are you getting at home? From all these different angles, what's it been like to be you at the top end of the draft since January?
It's good. Like, I still hang out. Like, our fans are great. I mean, I love our fans, and And I'm still show up in public a bunch. I mean, it's not like I'm hiding. I never have done that. Whether we're good or bad. I mean, I still go out, and our fans are good.
Yep.
They'll definitely ask questions, and I'll answer them. I mean, I get a ton of email. Like, I love the emails. I love them. I love when people email. I mean, it's great. I mean, I'll call them, talk to them.
Right.
So, but look, I think our fans deserve that. I think our fans deserve. And you don't get back to everybody, and even in public, but what we do is entertainment. And, they have a right to be passionate about it, and they have a right to ask questions.
Who's the stronger opinions? Is it from the draft room or is it from the Ballard household?
Well, I mean, like, my kids they got strong opinions. Now, there is no doubt. They look at me cross-eyed all the time about who, if I tell them I like it, no, Dad, he can't. I'm like, okay, he doesn't work on me.
Okay. He's going to look good in a video game, though, right? That's fantastic. Chris Ballard with us. Chris, thanks so much for the time. I know you're swamped. Good luck, all right?
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris.